Hello, magical people of the internet. I am Jen, and welcome to I Never Thought I Would, where we discuss doing things we never thought we would do and the fascinating places that they can lead us. I have such a wonderful guest today. He is a voiceover artist. He's the host of Authors on the Air, and he's an author. My friend, Terry Shepard. Hi,
Hey,
Terry.
good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
I know, it's so nice to see you too. I'm so happy you had time to come and chat with me today.
It's my pleasure. It's beautiful here in Florida. Come down and visit.
I would love to. I actually intend, a friend of mine is having a big birthday this year, and she called me a few days ago. I was like, I think I want to go to Miami for my birthday. And I was like, great, I'll come. And then I have like 5 other people in 5 different cities in Florida that I need to go pop into and say hello to.
That is so true. You know, when we lived in Peoria, Illinois, nobody came to see us. But the minute we moved to Jacksonville, it's on the way to Disney World. And all of a sudden, everybody wanted to come by. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes from the gate. And so they would come the night before, stay with us for free and save, 400, $500 on hotels. And all of a sudden we had a million friends again.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
don't show up in Peoria for some reason. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny how that works out. But you've had such an eclectic career. You started off in advertising, then you got into radio and voiceover and films. And now you're an author. So as creatives, we tend to, choose the road less traveled. We have the courage to kind of do things that a lot of people don't. So I'm sure you've done a couple of things you never thought you would. And I would love for you to share one of those with us today.
Well, there are a ton, Jen, but the one that will always be at the front of my memory was sitting behind a drum set, driving a rock band before 15,000 kids in a soccer stadium in Santiago, Chile in 1972. We were part of an international student exchange program, and we went down there. It was the summer here, so it was the winter there. It was back when the socialists were in power, and there wasn't anything for the kids to do. And so here were these people that looked like them, that were their same age, that were playing their music. And we were a big band. We had horns, we had everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed up. And to be able to be the guy that was playing the drums and driving that band in that situation, we played a ton. We went up and down the entire coast. So we played every place. We even played in the church,
Wow.
cavernous church. But I will never forget the feeling. And you know what this is like. We were talking before the show about, and I encourage you, when you next time you're in the West End of London, go before the show, like early in the afternoon, sneak in there and stand on that stage.
Yeah.
Look out into that audience and imagine what it's going to be like when you do get that part about
Yeah.
about performing, because there is nothing like it. You and I know, because of our experience in that space, what it is
Mm-hmm.
like to connect with an audience in such a powerful, direct, intimate, emotional way. And when it works, like when we came out of the end of Bill Chase's Get It On, which at the time was like big hot song down
Mm-hmm.
that way, and they just went nuts. I had a sense for what it was like to be a member of the Beatles. And I knew at that point that it wasn't a lifestyle I wanted. I thought at that time I wanted to be a session musician.
Mm-hmm.
And the touring thing gets old very quickly. So for me, I was able at a very young age to understand, to come to terms with what the good and bad of stardom could be in that small place. And I had that experience. So it was it was very centering for me,
Mm-hmm.
because, you have all of the experience that you do have in show business, of people that like you, people that hate you, people that wish they were you, and, stalkerish people. And it prepared me well for the next big thing in my life, which was I decided I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be a DJ. So when I came back from South America, I went to the local radio station, got a gig there, and ended up, I spent the next 10 years, basically worked my way through college as a screaming top 40 jock, and was very bad at the beginning, but it was something I wanted so bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is another thing that maybe we have in common, is that you just power through the bad days, because that goal is something that you will not be denied. And I didn't stop until I was good. And by
Well,
then,
that's the thing. How many of us start good? you know, and
Nobody does. Yeah.
exactly, like if we're doing things that we've never done before, it's almost never that we start good.
And
And
that's kind of the thing that I don't like about social media is that people begin judging you on this level playing field while you're learning how, right? So you're going to make mistakes, whatever you do, starting a website, starting anything,
yeah,
you're going to be bad at first. And that's the only way you can get better is by continuing to do it, learning from the feedback, seeking it out, telling people, look, tell me where I stink. I want to know what's bad so I can make it better. And I
and
love that space.
yeah,
Feedback to me is the breakfast of champions. I want it.
and also just to expand on the trouble with social media is it doesn't allow us to evolve because it's always digging up our skeletons from
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think people just need to relax about is, first of all, we were not born perfect. You
Yeah.
know, life is an evolution. Life is a journey. We learn from our mistakes. Like, I know a lot of people who will, you know, talk about a person from high school, so to speak, you know, and, you know, put them down or whatever because maybe they were a mean person or a bully or this or that. But
Yeah.
20 years later, if you have that person framed in your mind that they never evolved, like I would be horrified. I would be horrified if people, you know, judged me today based on who I was as a teenager or who I was in my 20s. Like I have evolved so much. I'm a completely different person. Even like the actors who worked with me on the first play I produced when I was 22 years old, you know, I would be horrified to think that they would still think that I would behave that way today because I've evolved so much. At this point in my career, I've produced over 40 productions. The first one was the hardest.
Well, you know what? If you think about the kind of people we love to read about, a protagonist with a sketchy past and a flawed present is the one we cheer for because we know that that person's going to overcome. And
Exactly.
so yeah, I try and look at, I certainly have made more than my share of mistakes. And if you're going to be good at something, you're going to screw up. And failure is a requirement for success. You cannot be successful without making lots and lots of mistakes. So fail forward, try and learn from it. When you know people dig deep and try and find dirt on me, I say, yeah, that happened. You know, that was then. That's not now. You know, it's not, and it's not what's going to be tomorrow. So
Definitely.
I can't be continuing to live thinking about every single mistake I made along the way. What I do think about is what were the great learning experiences for me and what were the gifts? Because there is always a pony in the manure pile, as Harry Truman used to say. If you just got to look for it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to circle back a little bit because I want to ask you more about your experience in Santiago, Chile.
Yeah.
And so you were on a student exchange program. I am assuming you were in some sort of band with your school.
Yeah, there was an organization at that time, doesn't exist anymore, that put together musical groups that would go to different countries. And the 2 years that I was connected to it, there was a European tour first, and I was doing something else that summer, so I couldn't go. But the year I went, they went to South America, and it involved homestays. And there are people there that I am still friends with today. There's one family that we actually consider an extension of our family.
Wow.
And we've been at their weddings and births of their children. It's very interesting because the kids, trying to think of the three kids, two of them are Canadians now. One of them lives in Calgary, one of them lives in Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
And you know, retired air traffic controller, government employee, fantastic people. And they're my extended siblings. So that experience, I'm really glad I had it. The other dimension of it was that it was a really rough time in Chile's history when Allende was in power. And there was a lot of, you know, they didn't have a lot of stuff. We had this big joke that it was always pollo con arroz, chicken and rice.
Yeah, because that's all there was.
And then it was arroz con pollo and pollo solamente and arroz solamente. And in the moment, there was one time when we were at the very northern part of Chile in Arica, where I was staying with the Argentine consul, his family. And of course, Argentina had the beef and we had steaks, and I had not had anything but chicken for 7 weeks. And I got to tell you, that steak was really, really good.
Yeah. Probably the best one you ever had.
Yeah, and I've been back. It's been fascinating to watch. I mean, you go to Santiago now, it looks like any big city in the United States. There's a huge mall there, and you see NBA posters hanging in the streets and stuff. So it's very, very Western city, very, very modern. And the country is beautiful. It still retains a lot of its charm that it had when we were there. And my family has lived all across. I've been to the southernmost tip of the South American continent, where my brother was air traffic controller for all the flights going in and out of Antarctica, and seen it all. And to have done that at such a young age, I mean, the travel thing I think is really important when you're young, to be able to understand that it isn't just Toronto, or it isn't just Florida. It isn't your neighborhood. There's a bigger world out there, and people have different challenges in these different places. And we have it, in spite of how bad we think it is now, we have it pretty good. We have it really good. And whenever I start feeling sorry for myself about what's going on now with the pandemic, I just think about some of the experiences I've had working with people who are a lot less fortunate, and through no fault of their own, have had real struggles. But what I found is that they are some of the most gracious, humble, thankful people. Gratitude abounds amid this kind of suffering. And it's been so inspirational for me, because I think, wow, if they can do that, what do I got to complain about? I need to look for that pony, and get on it and ride it and turn it into a stallion,
Yes.
That adventure really was a big thing.
But it's so true what you said. It's almost like in the West, the more we have, the less grateful we are. And so many of us don't have the perspective of having traveled to countries where people are less fortunate and things are more of a struggle, whether it's a financial struggle or a political struggle. My mom is from Tunisia, North Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, that's where she was born. So she came to Canada when she was a little girl with her siblings. Her parents moved here. And I think because I have the perspective of my parent being an immigrant and having a struggle and having had to leave the country she was from for a better opportunity, I have a different perspective or a different connection to the reality of how lucky we are, in the West. And especially, like, there's so much tumult politically going on in Canada and the US right now, and the whole fight for social justice. And I was listening to a podcast, and it was Jordan Peterson who was talking about the 1%, and how, in this country we vilify the 1%. However, everybody in this country is the 1% on a global scale. But we're so resentful of all the things that we don't have, because they have more, that we can't even see that we are the 1%. And everybody else is struggling because of our selfishness. We need cheap goods. We need cheap manufacturing that we outsource offshore. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into this. This isn't really where I wanted to go. But it's just, but it was, when I heard that perspective, I was just like, oh, we are. And our opinion is so myopic, we can't see outside of our own selfishness.
Well, that is really a reality. I mean, it's I have a couple of friends who are entrepreneurs, and they outsource some of their IT stuff to much poorer countries, and they pay, pennies on the dollar for that support. But even so, even though they're getting a very good deal for this help that is very qualified in their own country, those people are considered rich.
Exactly.
They have the best stuff, and they have the careers, and people want to grow up to be like them. And that was something that I discovered in my adventures with Jessica Ramirez, because she
Mhm.
is based on a real life cop. She's a friend of mine, Tracy Ruiz, who's a 25-year veteran of the cop shop in Michigan community, uh, was one of the first Latina females in law enforcement in that city, in a
Wow.
culture of misogyny and prejudice and outright hatred. And she had over a quarter century throughout her career had to deal with that. And not just from the guys, from some of the women too.
Mhm.
And that was part of the motivation for me writing the books in the first place, is that she had so many experiences that didn't turn out good for her, that did not have happy resolutions. But she never lost. This is the thing I love about Tracy, is she never lost her spunk. She never lost her dedication to why she was doing it, why she was doing the job. And she's still a pro today. I mean, she's a consultant now. She's been a deputy police chief. She's doing all kinds of amazing things, but she had to overcome a whole heck of a lot. So the way Jess started out was that she and I were hanging out together, and she was telling me one of the stories. It's something that happened to her. And I said, I should write something like this, only give it a happy ending. And she said, well, I got a million stories. So what we did was we picked 2 or 3 of those scenes, and
Mhm.
I put one of them in Chasing Vega. There's a scene in Chasing Vega of an undercover operation that Jess is involved with, that actually happened to Tracy. Only the resolution in Chasing Vega, where the bad guys get their comeuppance for what they're doing, didn't happen for Tracy.
Mhm.
And it was interesting to have her read that, because she was laughing at the end, and she was saying, I'm just imagining that happening to these guys. It would have been so cool. And the fact that it's happening even in a book is making me feel better, right?
Yes.
So if you take
Yeah, definitely.
to the next step, I mean, the thing that drew me to the series was that I could populate that series with a diverse ensemble cast
Mhm.
that put people of color, put people with ability challenges in positions of heroism.
Mhm.
And for me, the real magic of the Jessica series has happened when I hear from a young Latina who sends me an email and says, I never thought I'd be saying this, but I want to grow up to be like Jesse.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about law enforcement. What do I do? And I pass that on to Tracy. When I hear that, my medical examiner in Chasing Vega is on the autism spectrum. And I based him on the son of my best friend who has
Mhm.
Asperger's syndrome, brilliant kid, and has really had an amazing life, has a fantastic family. He's figured out how to exist in this world with that one social challenge. And Joey Price, I get the most mail about him. They love him because he just sits there. He knows that he can't do it socially, but he's brilliant. He's 5 steps ahead of everybody else. And the sheriff's losing his mind. And Joey just holds up the thing that's missing, and he's taking care of it. So that kind of stuff, I love it. I get chills when I hear from people that say, wow, I never thought that I might be able to be a physician. But
Mhm.
now I'm considering taking science in high school and wading through the communication challenges that I have and the perception that other people have of me,
Mhm.
and going forward anyway. And that really is, and that's kind of the essence of life for all of us. It doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, what your background is. At some point, you've been an outsider in your life. So you've done something that's made you the target of a bully. And what we forget is that happened. And it's very easy for us to look at other people who are struggling now and turn a blind eye to their challenges, because we've forgotten what it feels like when that happens to us. And so in the Jess books, I mean, that was a side goal. It's been, the only downside is that it's in this world, the politics of this world right now, it's very hard for a white guy to be credible writing somebody that doesn't look like him.
Mhm.
Um, that's the only, I've never heard that feedback directly in an Amazon review. My Amazon reviews are all 4 or 5 stars. And the books sell like crazy. They're Vegas translated to Spanish. Chasing the Captain, the second one, is coming out in Spanish next month. Um, they're they're using it in college literature classes. In fact, my strategy for getting Jess into Hollywood is that we're casting the movie in one of these college classes. I asked the professor at the end of the term if she would have her kids say, "Who do you think should play Jess? Who do you think should play Alexandra Clark?" and who should play all these people on the team. And then I'm going to take it to that actress and say, hey, this is what your fans are seeing. You might want to read this book. That's how it works. I don't know if you've heard about. I don't know if you know the name R. Franklin James, but she's a friend of mine out in Sacramento who has a fantastic writer. And what happened was a famous person, an actress, read her book, liked it, gave it to another actress who gave it to her agent, who talked to somebody at Lifetime, and all of a sudden Ray gets a phone call. She thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
That's how it happens, right? You find a way to find the connection with somebody who believes in the story as much as you do and thinks it needs to be somewhere else. It needs to be repurposed.
Yeah. And I just want to go back for a second because I find it so irksome. Your statement about as a white man, it's hard right now to have like credibility writing about somebody who's not a white man. And this book series was inspired by somebody This is like a tribute to this phenomenal, fierce female cop who is a cop and, maybe doesn't have the skills to sit down and write the book. She can tell stories to you, she can relay things to you, but you're right. You wrote this book series as an homage to this woman, but you're being vilified for it because you're not the right color. And to me,
I wouldn't say that. I don't think it's vilified. I think it's hard for us to, the natural thing we like is we like to see people tell their stories from, this is why what I love about Sean Cosby. S.A. Cosby is one of my favorite writers. I'm so glad that after all these years, he's getting the international attention he deserves. He's very gifted, and he's lived a lot of these stories that he tells. I couldn't do that, but the thing that has been kind of the unexpected gift for me from this whole project is that in my research, I'm meticulous. I'm an immersive researcher. So I went out with, dozens of female cops and rode with them. I walked side by side with them. Jess's partner is LGBTQ. Some of my favorite married couples are women. And the great joke is that they all wrote me when the book came out and they said, how dare you make me a star like that without at least telling me you're going to do it? Because all of my friends are saying, hey, that's you. Yeah. Well, did I get it right? And she goes, yeah, she's a badass. but the thing that I came away with, I think, is that we all need to walk with other people that are different than we are. We can't be them. We can't have that total experience, but we can know what it's like to walk with them and support them and ask questions, learn about them. We don't do enough of that. We stay in our own little cliques. We do. And this is another challenge with social media, is that we go to our tribe, right? And that's where we go. We go to the people who like the stuff that we post. And I think it's a lot harder, but it can be a lot more rewarding. Figure out, my dad told me when I was very young that what we have to do is find out where it's hurting and go make a difference there. And that's what we have to do. That's our purpose. Our universal purpose as human beings is to, lighten the suffering for somebody else. And what the only metric of every day is, have we done something small in that place? Have we said something nice at the drive-thru at McDonald's, to the minimum wage person that showed up for that job today? Yeah. Because you never know. I mean, one of the things you never know is you never know when that thing that you give of yourself to somebody else, even if it's a kindness, might happen at a pivotal moment. When I was going through a rough patch in my life, I got calls from people that I mentored who reminded me of the things that I did for them that I had totally forgotten about. There's one young woman reminded me that I was in Thailand. It was like the middle of the night and my cell phone rang, and it was her. And she was on a bus going down to Austin to, why am I blanking on it? Everybody knows what that big conference is down.
South by Southwest.
Yeah, South by Southwest. She was on her way to South by Southwest on a pitch bus. She was an young entrepreneur, and she said, I need you to talk me out of killing myself.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know. I can't tell you what I said to her. I don't remember it. I just remember I remember thinking about how wonderful she was, how selfless she was, and how many people she had helped. And I think I tried to say to her, look, you can't control the gene, right? Some of us come with a depression gene. I have it. It's a family. My sister committed suicide. It's it happens. You have to learn how to deal with it. And one of the things that I think we have to remind ourselves when we're in the dark places is that we can make a difference. And the way for healing for me is that I gotta be able to do that every day. I'm always looking for ways to do it. So that's what got Vega going. The my latest one, Students in Time. I talked to my grandson's fourth grade teacher and I said, what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest thing that as a teacher right now? And I'm thinking, it's going to be helicopter parent or something. And she said, no. She said, I can't get people excited about history. Nobody in fourth grade cares about Sir Walter Raleigh or Virginia Dare's baptism. So I came up with this idea, Students in Time, about a time travel book where Hudson and Maria, his classmate, go with their teacher, Ms. Keefe, back in time, and time travel has been invented as a historical tool. So they are researchers and they go back in time, and every chapter is based on a lesson from the curriculum that year. There's like 13 of them, and they experience it firsthand. And that was great fun because it was my first experience working with a ghost. I was in the middle of another project, so I hired a ghostwriter. I created the characters and I created the world, gave her the PowerPoints basically that the teacher was using in class. And the game was tell the story. And then at the end, when they come back from their travel, they say, wow, what do I want to remember about this trip? And those are the test questions. So that's what Students in Time turned out to be. And it's great. It's really cool because it's got a huge audience of returning people every year that are going to go through that curriculum that will buy the book. But for me, it's just fun. When I took it over to them, this is brand new, so I took it over to them a few weeks ago, and Catherine Keefe, who's the teacher and also one of the co-stars of the story, said I started reading it to the class, and now they all go find my grandson who's in fifth grade now, and they say, "Wow, you're a star."
I remember last time you talked, you told me that you were working on this piece. So it's so exciting that it's actually like in the ether now. It
took a lot longer. Yeah. I mean, Jay Rose, who was my collaborator with it, originally we were going to do it as a total ghost and it was just going to be a Terry Shepard thing, but she did such a great job, and we ended up collaborating so well that I gave her co-author credit in the book. And I hope she'll write more because she understands, she's a teacher. She understands that language and I didn't. And that's part of what we do as authors is if we're going to write in a genre, I wrote a romance thing on a bet. I didn't know anything about it, but before I got into it, I went to the Romance Writers Conference and, I tried to find some of the best authors in that space, which I was comfortable writing in. I didn't know anything about it. And they teach you, right? I mean, it's like anything. They teach you. And then it's just about where you're most comfortable writing. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I consider myself a developing writer. The things that have come across my radar are things that I don't always expect. Like the big success is Juliette and the Mystery Bug. And I wrote that as a one-off, a Dr. Seuss picture book, basically, so that I could teach my 10-year-old grandson and Juliette, who's 5 now. She was 3.5 when that book came out, and she happens to have Down syndrome. So she has she and I say that she's from Venus and she's trying to understand us humans on Earth, and she has her own language and stuff like that. But in a way, she's the smartest person in the room, definitely the most inquisitive. So
yes,
have this thing come out at just the right time, something that I really only did once for their family, but ended up getting, the neighbors wanted it, and then it became a city thing, and then it starts showing up in doctors' offices, and then they said, well, we need to, the first one I wrote, first chapter was hand washing and nose blowing. And then somebody said, well, we got masks now. And it was back when you couldn't get masks. So part of the second chapter was how to make one, right? And what I contacted Fauci's office and Centers for Disease Control and said, how do you want me to do it, right? How do you want me to, what are the facts that you want me to talk about? So that
Mhm.
one came out, and then the vaccine came around. So how do
Mhm.
you explain vaccine science to a kid? And
Yes.
that became the third one. And what we did was, after when we had the three, we put them all together in the Mystery Bug Complete Collection, and that's the one that's selling like hotcakes right now, because it reads like Dr. Seuss. The only negativity I get from parents is that the children want to hear it again and again and again, and they've had to read it 60 times.
Like any good book, that's all children
Yeah,
want. Again, again.
yeah. Well, and I can, they have it memorized. I mean, we all remember green eggs and ham, you know.
Mhm.
I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam. I am. Well, now all I got to
Right?
do is say, it began on a Monday. She heard Hudson sneeze, and Juliette takes it from there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've done one of the cool marketing things that I did was I did a flash mob read where
Oh, that's
I gave
exciting.
everybody a sentence, and they all sent me on their cell phone. I
Mhm.
got to publish it. I haven't had time to put it up, but you know, every single line was by somebody who bought the book. They had their kid read one line of it, and it goes together. And I'm gonna put that out there at some point.
Oh,
Um,
that's
but
great.
that, I didn't expect that. I mean, that was not in my plan. So going forward, I'm just gonna try and see where the fun is. I think I got in process right now. I'm actually doing a collab with my friend Kate Anslinger, who's the great author of the Grace McKenna mysteries. It's a paranormal mystery. Great
Mhm.
cop that basically can see bad things that have happened to people, and when she looks in their eyes. And where Kate is with her in the series is Grace has just had a kid, so she's on maternity leave from the cop shop. So I'm sending Jessica out to Bridgeton, which is Grace's city suburb of
Mhm.
Boston, and she's going to cover for Grace for 6 months while she decides whether or not she can make it with her boyfriend, who's the FBI guy, Michael Wright, who's in the first two books. So Michael and Jess have moved in together, and we're calling this, the working title is The Substitute, and they're living together in an apartment in Bridgeton. He's working out of the Boston FBI office on a thing that just happens to have a Bridgeton connection, and she's taken over for Grace as a school cop, elementary school cop, kindergarten cop, and it's a real neat fish out of water story. And Grace gets some scenes in there, and I really like working with Kate. Kate is just fun. She's right between my two kids in age, so it's like I'm writing with my daughter.
Mm.
And we're going to see where it goes. I mean, she's gonna be in the front of the book. It's going to be Kate Anslinger and Terry Shepard, and so she's got control, and she gets, you know, yes, yay or nay. So we may well go in a different direction completely, but I'm 20,000 words in there, and then I got a standalone I'm going to try and get out this year called Transference, which has nothing to do with Jess so far. I'm 47,000 words into that one, and we'll see where that goes. And then there may be another Juliette book in 2022. I'm talking actually with a press association right now who wants to do something about media literacy, and so we're considering Juliette in the news, where she would, you know, go out in the neighborhood and hear something said about one of her friends,
Mm.
that learns about how to fact check, you
Yes,
know, and
that's
how
so
to,
important.
when somebody posts something on social media, to ask the questions, and you know, not believe everything you hear, and understand that all media has a point of view, and our job as consumers is to challenge that point of view. So I'm hopefully that'll come to pass, and then I'm trying to get Jess into Hollywood, and I got a book tour coming up that I couldn't do last year.
Terry, you are so fascinating. The way your mind works is just so incredible. And I'm so inspired by everything you're doing. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. This has been such a treat. I'm always excited to chat with you. And please let us know where everyone can find you and your books and everything else you do, because you have so much going on.
Well, the easiest thing is terryshepard.com. That's where it all starts. And thank you. It's been great to be with you. And I'm just excited for all the things that are happening for you. I hope 2022 was great for both of us.
Yes, I have a feeling it's going to be. We're turning a new corner this year, and hopefully everybody will be healthy and we'll be able to go back to some normal semblance of life as soon as possible. But thank you so much. It's been such a treat chatting with you today. And thank you all out there in the interweb. We'll have the links below to find Terry, his website, social media, book links, all of that. And I'd like to challenge you out there to do something that you never thought you would do. Let us know what it is in the comments and where it leads you. Have a beautiful day.